Everyone, welcome to the Felix Comic Art Podcast Live, our live stream edition. And tonight it's a double feature. We've got two guests. First, happy to welcome artist Steve Skroce. Hey, Steve.
Hey there. Hey, Felix.
And after we talk to Steve, we're going to bring back one of our regulars, David Mandel, who is in the midst of paying off his X-Wing prop. And we're going to find out how he did for his second batch of consignments at Heritage. A lot of you liked that first one we did, the post-auction reaction and analysis from Dave. You know, which ones he was happy with, which ones he wasn't so happy with. Well, we're going to do that all again with a whole new batch of art. But first, I want to thank my pal Jason, Comic Art Channel, who is behind the scenes running the show. I've got Yams in the room who's busy scanning art. If you saw our unboxing Saturday night, you know, it was like several hundred pages. We're still trying to get through scanning. As a matter of fact, we haven't even finished scanning the art from the previous show. That's a lot of scanning. If it gets too noisy, just let me know. I'll have him take a break. And but first off, again, welcome, Steve. Welcome to not just the show, but welcome to Felix Comic Art. Really exciting to have you on board. We've opened up a commission list when we announced you. That's been going great. We're going to show off your first completed commissions from the list. And then we're going to go into an art show, where we're going to feature art from your very first ever art drop. So this is all kind of new to you. You've been a working artist in comics and in movies for over 30 years now. But your art hasn't been super available. I know people have picked things up for you at a show here or there, but you really haven't sold that much either. I know you've made the decision prior to this to keep a lot of it. So anyway, this is a big opportunity for collectors. We're very excited. Let's see who we got in the room. We got Jason Williams, ML, Doug Pfluger, Victor Bracamontes, Mike Sitchy, COL, I guess Colonel 403. Yams is in here, Chuck Arnold, of course, the aforementioned Comic Art Channel, Black Viper of Dawn. Thank you all you guys for joining. Marcus Way, Stingray, and we'll have a cool prize. We're going to have a cool prize, which we're going to show you in a little bit. Was it Raul Gardinas? Very cool. But why don't we talk a little bit about your career, Steve? Right. Let's get started. I mean, you got started early. Were you even 20 when you got your first gig?
I was 18, actually. It was during that boom in the 90s. You know, they were doing comics. If you could hold a pencil, they'd give you a comic to draw, a regular series. And so that would have been 94, 5, something like that. And Clive Barker, he was getting in on that boom, kind of right when it crashed, really. And he had this line of books called the Razor line, right, based on Clive Barker ideas. And I did one. Originally was me and James Robinson, and he quit after a couple issues. And the replacement writers were the Wachowskis, and that's pretty much where my relationship with them began. And Marvel back in those days.
The sibling filmmaking duo behind The Matrix, which we will talk about soon.
Yes.
How did you jump right into Marvel? How did you get discovered for Marvel?
Well, you know, back in those days, there was no social media. You couldn't there was no likes. You had to Xerox your artwork, put it into a little packet with your info on it, and then you would just go to shows and try to get editors. And back in those days, San Diego, that was what you would do. That's where you could meet a Marvel or DC editor face to face. And so that's what I did. Is I went down there with, you know, a duffel bag full of Xeroxes of my work, little packets, and just handed them out to everybody. And this one editor, Marcus McLaurin, was there, and I gave him one. And his regular artist on this Clive Barker book, Ecto Kid, he dropped out, and I got the call. You know, some cheap Canadian labor.
Well, so were you just out of high school, and you had made the decision, I want to give Marvel Comics a shot?
Oh yeah, pretty much from I was 12 onward until I learned that you had to mail in submissions. I was harassing them forever, and guys like Carl Potts would be nice. He'd send me like a Xeroxed book of, the 5 C's of cinematography and the Bridgman's Guide to Drawing. So those little bits kind of encouraged me to keep going. And just really, there was really nothing else that I wanted to do. It was going up, just like all I want to do is draw the X-Men, and then I can die.
Well, your first gig, you said Clive Barker's Ecto Kid, right?
Yeah.
Not exactly, flagship title property for Marvel. So it's sort of a training ground, I guess. So you obviously proved yourself because let's call that AAA. I mean, you got jumped right into the majors after that on X-Men properties like Cable and Gambit and X-Men, which I will admit I did not read those. I wasn't a big Marvel superhero guy back then. But you've got a lot of fans of that stuff because when we announced you for Felix Comic Art, so many people wrote in asking about that art. And then, of course, culminating in a stint on Amazing Spider-Man, all in your early 20s. You're like 21, 22.
Yeah, that's when I had the energy. I mean, the amount of work I produced in that era, that was a page a day. And I look back at some of that stuff and I'm still kind of impressed by myself, But yeah, that was that's all I wanted to do. And the Ecto Kid job didn't get me anything, so I had to do more samples. And I worked at Marvel, so I could actually go in the front door. And I walked in and met everyone face to face, and met Bob Harris, and that's what got me that X-Man gig, or Cable, I think was the first one.
So did you fly out to New York with that goal? Like, I'm gonna pitch myself for like higher profile characters and gigs and things I actually want to work on?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Ecto Kid was a big break, but it was like, probably be something I'd be more interested in working on now. But back in the day, it was like, you wanted to be Jim Lee or Joe Mad, or, you wanted to get in on that action. And that's all I could think about. I wanted to draw a true Marvel hero, and so I got to do Cable, and Jeff Loeb and I that evolved into X-Man. We got to create that, and Amazing Spider-Man. Yeah, pretty much most of my time in my 20s was grinding those books out, which was amazing time looking back. It was good days.
And then the career takes a turn because the Wachowskis, whom you work with, you said, right, on Ecto Kid, went into the movies business and were making movies.
Yeah, right at the end there, they at the end of Ecto Kid getting canceled, they sold their first script to Hollywood, which was this thing called Assassins that Richard Donner made. And, they were doing script doctoring gigs, and they had this weird script, The Matrix, out there. And I had just developed, they just liked me. And we got along, and they just wanted they had a lot of specific ideas about how they wanted to do their boards. And, I was young enough and, just eager enough that I was able to just kind of, give them what they wanted that were not quite as traditional as the stuff they, from a general artist at that time, might have given them.
How do you make that decision? You wanted to be a Marvel artist. You're a Marvel artist. You're working on the biggest books they have. How do you make a decision then to jump into the movies with a couple of unproven filmmakers on just this crazy project? I had actually seen their first movie, which was Bound, and I thought I was really impressed by them. But this so anyway, before we get into all that, happy 25th anniversary of The Matrix. It's this year.
Yeah.
And it's actually, I think, coming up. It's actually this month, right? Didn't Matrix come out in April of 1990?
Yeah, weeks ago, I think I might have posted about it. Yeah,
And I saw when it came out, and like everyone who saw it, just completely blown away. Something none of us fully expected. You see that it's a sci-fi themed movie, but it was so much more than that. And I think I mentioned to you earlier, for those of our audience who live in LA, if you remember the Shrine Show, the LA Comic Convention that used to take place every month at the Shrine, organized by Bruce Schwartz. I was at the show that the Wachowskis were at with Keanu, Lawrence Fishburne, Carrie Ann Moss promoting the movie, and we got to see clips from the movie. And so I think I probably had a little bit better idea than your average moviegoer, but still was completely blown away. And I think that's obviously like a huge a generational touchstone for movie fans, pop culture fans.
It really was one of the first kind of hybrid genre movies. It kind of introduced mainstreamed Eastern cinema, which to the West, which we hadn't really had before. Suddenly we're seeing wire work, and up until this day is pretty consistent. In Western made movies these days.
Yeah, they brought in. I think these guys. They consumed comic books, anime, and in Hong Kong movies. They were smart enough to bring in Yuen Wu-ping, who's, in my opinion, the greatest choreographer who's ever worked in movies, and managed to make these actors who had no training or background look pretty good. So yeah.
I remember them telling me, Michael Bay was at the premiere, and he comes out, and I remember them telling me that he was standing there going, "Wow, head replacement, huh? Incredible what they're doing now." You thought of everyone that they were just stuntmen who knew kung fu, and then they just dropped their heads on top. And no one had ever done that before, to like take a bunch of actors and train them for months so they could perform stuff like a big stunt like that, or kung fu choreography like that.
So did they sell you on the idea? Did they show you a script? What convinced you to make that move?
Well, Lana's very convincing. I mean, so is Lily. Both of them are. Like Bound was the first movie they, like you said before, I was working on my dream job, working at Marvel. And then I get this opportunity to work on movies, which was like super cool sounding, but wasn't the plan. And, but so I turned down Bound. But Lana and I, we just kept in touch, and we always checked in and asked me how it's going. I always asked how it was going. And, it turned out that, she sort of understood that I made a dumb mistake, and then for the next one, she finally brought me out for the Matrix. But she said, "You can do your Marvel pages at nighttime." So they brought me out to L.A., put me up to Chateau Marmont, and I'm like 19 years old or 20 years old. I'd never been on a plane before, if you can believe it. And so they bring me out there and put me up in this fancy hotel, and I'm kind of a hayseed during all this, and so I got a little glamored by the whole thing, and it just seemed. I love the solitude of being a cartoonist, but in those days, it was definitely very exciting to be, around so many high-level creative people and stuff. And then, after, they brought Darrow in at a certain point, and you can imagine the, what a blessing that was for my creative life to, be in a room with a talent of that caliber and spend time.
So that was your first meeting with Darrow? That's how you met Geof Darrow?
Yeah, through the Matrix films. They hired me first. They wanted to get him. But again, it was like at that point, he got lots of offers that he turned down. But, they sort of convinced him that it wasn't like everything else. And it was really funny. The first drawings that he sent in, he was still in France, Paris, drawing. But his drawing, in those days, it was sent by fax, right? Your drawings. And and he had a big drawing coming through. And I was there that day. And everyone's gathered around the fax machine. And when it comes out, it's... so detailed that it just comes out as a big black smudge. Like,
did you design that drone with all the arms?
You mean the Sentinel?
Yeah, the Sentinel.
That's Geof. He did most of the drawings, most of the design work. Him and a couple other artists like Tani Kunitake and Warren Manzer. But most of the stuff that happens in the real world in the Matrix, that's him. And any of the fighting that's happening and the sequences inside the Matrix is stuff that I worked on. Like Bullet Time was. Something that I did with them.
Wow. Everyone, I mean, that's hugely memorable. And if you ask people, maybe, what's the one thing you really remember? What's the one that really stuck out? It might be Bullet Time out of everything.
Yeah, it was, spoofed forever. Like in the first Shrek film, they've got a Bullet Time moment. And it was pretty cool to be part of something like that.
So I'll just bring this up because along with X-Men and Cable and Gambit, a lot of people asked about Matrix art, which I asked you about. So Why don't you break everyone's heart now?
Well, sadly, I don't own any of that. That's all, owned by Warner Brothers and the Wachowskis. And being comic fans themselves, they understand the um, inherent value and the wanting to possess original artwork. So they actually have this almost a McDuck's money bin of art from their movies, like this, just this big room with all, and especially in those early days, it's a lot of original art, because nowadays everyone does everything's digital, most art you see on movies is kind of photo bash, and you won't see. I'd be surprised if you saw anything hand drawn. I mean, paper and traditional media these days.
JC Padilla says there was a Darrow Sentinel at Heritage not that long ago. Well, I guess the question then is, was that a piece used for the movie, or was that something Geof drew after the fact or later? So who knows? But in any case, still very, very cool. Still very, very cool. Chuck Arnold has a question. Did you do Speed Racer too?
Yeah, worked on that one as well. Yeah, that was another cool experience. That was mostly done in Berlin, a little bit in LA as well. But yeah, that was a good one. I kind of got the short shrift. I kind of feel like it's a classic. I think it might be my second favorite Wachowski movie after The Matrix. Got a real soft spot for that one. That was pretty cool.
You mentioned, you met Geof Darrow working on The Matrix, and I know you guys are great friends from that. And when you first logged in, I immediately saw you had some pretty impressive art behind you that I surprised was Geof's work. And why don't can you bring that piece up in the black frame a little closer for the audience to appreciate?
Sure. You guys might remember this one.
Yeah. Eat your heart out, everyone, because I am. That is.
Let's start
primo Geof Darrow, hard-boiled art. Nixon completely just battered and bloody. And, obviously this has an influence on your work too, which we're going to see with the Berserker art we're going to show off in a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It was really, like I said, it was a blessing, but how much luckier would I have? I'd be way richer if that had been Mark Bagley or someone really fast next to me on those movies instead of Geof. Definitely, I adopted that depth and detail, and the old ultra-violence is something that I like a lot, and kind of that Hergé, open line style. I'm sort of giving myself permission these days to get in there and spot blacks again, but for a long time that was something that I kind of was committed to.
Okay, so going from Marvel and then working on movies with the Wachowskis, and it wasn't just limited to the Wachowskis. I think you told me you'd work on an early iteration of Justice League that was going to be spearheaded by George Miller of Mad Max fame. And I remember this. This was mid-2000s, maybe to late 2000s, because I think Wolfgang Peterson had a Batman Superman project that was going on at the same time. And, I think Warner's just really didn't know what they had or how to or what to do. This was before, Kevin Feige at MCU showed everyone how to do it. I think Christopher Nolan was making the Batman movies at Warner's, but beyond that, I don't think Warner's really had a clue. But they brought in these great filmmakers like Wolfgang Peterson and George Miller to take a swing. And you were on Justice League with George Miller. Tell us a little bit about that. It's sort of, this is the behind the scenes, what could have been, story.
Yeah, it was a great opportunity. The production designer from The Matrix was hired to do this movie, and so he gave me a call. The production designer is generally the guy who's the boss of the artists on a movie, and yeah, it was amazing. I was a huge George Miller fan, Road Warrior and Witches of Eastwick and his kids movies. And yeah, I think I got to go down to Australia, and around the same time they were doing the New 52, and it was kind of interesting because I feel like we were asking a lot of the same questions. How do you update these characters, modernize them, but keep the essence of them, faithful?
We know. We know. So there. If you Google it, there is a picture that the cast took, like a group shot, and you had. I remember it was Armie Hammer as Batman. You had one of the actors was ended up in like a G.I. Joe movie. He was Superman. Then you had this really tall Australian woman as Wonder Woman, and she shows up later in Fury Road. Then I remember Jay Baruchel was Maxwell Lord, and I think there was a John Stewart Green Lantern, and anyway, you probably remember
the Common was going to play the Green Lantern.
Okay, Common, yeah,
Armie Hammer, who's been, if we remember, he's been canceled now, but he was going to be Batman, and they got super far down the tracks. They built sets, they got costumes made for everybody, which was pretty wild. They had Weta designing the characters. There's this pretty sick-looking Martian Manhunter that Weta designed. That's pretty amazing, but. Just the budget ballooned so much, having all these characters, having to create all these powers. It was just at that point, no one had considered the idea of a cohesive universe yet. Our building, Iron Man was coming out that summer, I believe. I worked on it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you were so you're jumping between comics and movies, and one of the comics you worked on during this time is actually how I discovered you. Like I did not know you from the earlier Marvel work. But this is how I found you, Doc Frankenstein.
Yes.
I big fan of this book. This came out same time as Geof Darrow's Shaolin Cowboy, and this was put out by Burly Man Comics, which, as it turns out, was the Wachowskis' comic book publishing, the sort of boutique publishing, I guess, glorified hobby for them. So, funny thing is, I have these comics buried in these long boxes somewhere. I just found this set this weekend at a local comics show, the Berkeley. Shout out to Berkeley Comics Show. So I got another set. I just had to pick them up. When I see them loose, I had to pick them up. But this was just mind blowing when I mean look at that. When this was coming out, first of all, their production value on these books were just amazing. These were like some of the nicest books being put out, and then your art. I was like, Geof Darrow's working on a book and he's not drawing it. And I opened it up. Oh wow, okay. I represent a guy named Tradd Moore, very popular, and it's sort of a branch off the same tree. This the hyper detailed, large scale mayhem, violence. So this to me was sort of that. A lot of people are their first experience with that style is with Tradd. This actually, for me, was early Tradd. And I was a big fan. Except this book came out like so sporadically, and I never even got that 6th issue. And sure enough, like this set I got here is only 1 through 5, so missing that very elusive 6th issue, which is collected. It's in the hardcover at least.
We did everything wrong that you could do as a publisher.
Mm-hmm.
Our hearts were in the right place, but we wanted like this high level of quality. But if you want to, be serious in that marketplace, you can't show up late the way we did. It became more of a passion project, than really kind of building a company. But I think the books, no, we didn't phone in a single panel.
Yep. So, tip for everyone out in the audience: if you can find Doc Frankenstein, grab it. Just beautiful books. There is a hardcover collection, but I'm always partial to the floppies, especially when they're as nice as these.
Thanks.
And good news is we will have some of that art in the future. That will be coming down the line. But for now,
first ever offered for sure.
Yeah. For now, why don't we? We've done a bit of talking. Why don't we show off some art? Jason, you there? Like I said earlier, we opened pretty much. I think this is your first ever proper commission list a month ago, and you've already delivered 5 of them. So here's one. These are all 11 by 17 cover quality, and here's Wolverine slicing and dicing some ninjas.
Yeah,
Very
the
fitting.
ninja survived, by the way.
Just a flesh wound. And let's go see the next one. You delivered 5 of them. This is Gambit. I mean, people know what to ask for.
Loving that X-Men 97, so I had to draw that right away. Spent some time with that guy.
And speaking of spending time with guys, next, Jason. Well, this is something a little different. This is a recreation, your take, your riff on Tom McFarlane's ASM 316.
Yeah,
with,
that's
Venom and Spidey.
My first Venom. Hard to beat that original cover, but I did love drawing that one.
You've not drawn Venom before?
That's my first Venom.
Holy cow. Okay, there you go.
So yeah, a lot to choose from. Oh yeah, and Spidey.
This might be my favorite of the batch personally. I love Spidey, and I just love what you've done with him here.
Yeah, I like to try to twist him up in a way that really just fills up as much of the page as possible. It's something I'm always trying to squeeze a figure in there, especially Spider-Man, because you can fold him up and get him quite big on the page if you want to. But yeah, I love Spider-Man.
And we got one more.
Right. What was the last one?
Next, you don't even remember. I remember. Jason, one more.
Oh yeah, Cable.
Another
Marvel.
Yep.
Or you know what I mean. Real character. I was so happy after I got that job.
Had you been a fan of the Tom McFarlane and Liefeld and the early Image? You loved all that Jim Lee.
Oh, I was right at that age. I was like 17, 18, 19.
Mm-hmm.
All when that stuff was dropping, I was in high school, and just there was just nothing cooler or what I wanted to do with my life. So what else was there? Comics were tip of the spear for what was cool. There was just nothing else like it. Movies hadn't quite gotten to the level they are now for recreating the vibe that you can have on the page. But yeah, exciting time.
And we're going to jump. We talked about Doc Frankenstein. You worked on other comics. The one that got me back into it again was We Stand on Guard, a miniseries you did with my favorite comics writer of the past 20 years, Brian K. Vaughan. Really enjoyed that. I think I tried to look for some original art from that, but I think you back then you just you weren't answering emails. Then you did creator owned with you've done a couple creator owned with Image.
Yeah.
And was it Post Americana?
Yeah, Post Americana, and I did a dark fantasy one called Maestros.
Right. And the art, and sadly, the art for all those is digital.
Yeah, I like that. When I got into movies, like everything transitioned to digital, and you couldn't really do that job anymore. You couldn't keep up with storyboards if you weren't doing things digitally. The shortcuts that the programs offer you just can't leave that on the table. So yeah, I switched over and kind of got used to it, and then sadly, I really had no real conception about selling my artwork, and I needed to get educated on that. But yeah, sadly, I did that with Clobbering Time as well.
Yeah, which probably most tragically, Clobbering Time, which was a 4-issue limited series. That's your latest work before Berserker. You did with Marvel, and the entire thing is Hulk and Thing battling it out almost every page. I mean, that stuff right there was gold, but sadly digital. However, all is not lost because, and this will be the first time I will have heard your answer to this. You got tabbed to work on Berserker, sort of reuniting with Keanu Reeves from The Matrix on his creator-owned project at Boom. You were assigned to do a one-shot Berserker Poetry of Madness, and this is before you and I had talked. What made you decide to put that on paper?
Well, the original series of Berserker came out, and obviously, having worked on so many of his movies for so long, I was curious about it. And the work that Ron Garney and Matt Kint and Mr. Reeves did. Well, I really liked that book. It was it dealt with secret mythologies and secret histories and ultra violence and this kind of noble yet sad character, this immortal. And I don't know, I really dug it and was kind of jealous that no one had called me and wanted to exploit my talents drawing Mr. Reeves. But then fate intervened, and that's what happened. Boom called me up and asked me if I wanted to do it. And I was like, yeah. I had a few pitches to throw at them, and it's funny. I think they picked the best one, but I wasn't sure if it was the one I was the most excited about. But yeah, Keanu versus Cthulhu, I think was a good time to draw that.
That's the pitch, Keanu versus Cthulhu, huh?
Yeah, pretty much. I called him. I said it was like I described the Berserker as like a really, really pissed off 1938 Superman. Because he doesn't fly around or anything, but he'll jump up and cut you into two pieces and all that great stuff that character does.
Well, having not worked traditionally and having worked digitally, I am just freaking blown away how clean and precise this art is. I mean, you didn't lose anything. I guess it's like riding a bicycle for you.
You know what the weird thing I found out is I'm drawing digitally. I always considered doing comics digitally because it would be faster. And when you're drawing the page, composing it, building the figures, all that, it is way faster. But with inking, because you can kind of zoom in, I found I was always putting more detail than was necessary in there. And when I actually started inking, what I do now is I draw it digitally, print it out, and then ink onto a board, trace it with a light box, trace the copy with a light box, and it's way faster. You less choices, kind of streamline the whole process.
Well, that's similar to what Geof does. I don't think he does anything digitally, but then he light boxes the inking for the final product. Yeah. So, there we go. Jason's put the cover up. But before we get into the art, why don't we show them, because your comp copy just came in, the Berserker Poetry of Madness pen and ink edition. Your publisher has deemed your art worthy of its own. This is basically an artist edition. This is a black and white reproduction of the original art. The entire comic, black and white, so you get a good idea of what the art looks like. You can see what it looks like uncolored. I think Boom has done this with one. They've done it with one of our other guys, Felipe Andrade, for Layla Starr.
Yeah,
and he does like Layla Starr. So, but this is you, and
a little commentary too down there.
Yeah, some director's commentary. So I don't have a copy, Steve. Because I went to my two shops, which are Escapist Comics in Berkeley and Cape and Cowl Comics in Oakland. I think I was a day late. I couldn't make it on Wednesday, so I was Thursday, and both stores sold out. So the second shop I went to was Cape and Cowl, also sold out. They've ordered me a copy, so I'll eventually get one. But you have a copy, and so that is going to be our first prize of the night from Steve. He is going to do a sketch, a remark on the cover. He'll sign it. If you want to personalize, let me know. And he'll send it to me with his next package, and I'll forward it to you. So before Steve logs off, we're going to give away that prize, but there you go. But why don't we get into the Berserker art? And how many pages total with this? It's like 48 pages, right? It's a
40. Yeah, I think it's 48 pages.
Yeah, it's a monster. It's a gorgeous one shot. This is, of course, the cover. Kind of lets you know what you're in for. The other artist, the B cover artist, was Travis Charest, which we all love Travis.
Oh yeah.
But I love this A cover. You got Keanu front and center. He's all berserkered out. You got all the Cthulhu tentacles. You got the army that's laid to waste at his feet. This is your comic, your story in a nutshell. Just like they used to do in the old days, give you an idea of what was inside. Okay, next slide, Jason. That's and again, just look at that thing. Look at the you can't see, yeah. Just nuts. Full page splash. Establish the scene, the environment. This is what we're getting into, and then next slide, Jason. Double page splash, and it is a bit Darrow-esque. I think someone mentioned earlier the art feels a little Darrow-esque, and when you go out into the background and into the crowd, just all that detail. I mean, it's not just a black mass. You actually render all that tiny detail was just insanity.
What am I thinking?
You can't help yourself.
I got to throw some blacks in there sometimes.
Yeah. Next slide, Jason.
Oh yeah, Subutai.
She's a new character just for this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I figured, like any good sword hero, he needs a chronicler, and she's sort of based on this character from the John Milius Conan movie. Who Subutai was Conan's sidekick. So
was that Jerry Lopez?
I don't.
No. Was that Mako? I can't remember.
Not Mako. Mako plays the wizard. Well, he was the surfer. Is that the guy's name?
Yeah.
I think it is. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, you're exactly. You got it.
Yeah, it's a very famous surfer. My favorite surfer. I introduced him to my pal Yams.
You knew him?
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I learned about him from Yams. Next slide, please. And top panel. That's how you introduce Keanu. Taking a leak.
I really wanted to, I wanted to change up the tone of the original. I wanted to get a little bit. I wanted his frame to be stoic and classic Keanu Reeves. But I do like the flexibility of the John Wick movies where they can add some humor into the all the grimness. I think that's a little bit fun. And for him, it's just he's just eating peanuts. Like the stakes are pretty low for the Berserker here. At this point in the story, he's a bit hedonistic, numbing himself to his own traumas with wine. Just kind of chilling.
All right. And at the bottom panel is a dude getting completely splattered, Steve Skroce style.
That's right.
All right.
Insulting.
Next, and here we go. You. The first peek at Keanu is him taking a leak, but the next one, this is full hero violence, and again, this reminds me of if people have read the Luther Strode book from Trad, the last arc, Legacy of Luther Strode, sort of starts off in a very similar vein. But yeah, look at this. This is just utter madness. This is the double page spread of the entire book as far as I'm concerned. But there is more crazy art. This gives everyone a taste, gives you an idea of what to expect. Be ready for the drop. It's a 48-page issue, but not all 48 pages are on paper. Steve did a few of them in the second half digitally for time. Also, in the second half of the book, you went from 411 by 17 to about 8.5 by 13. I did a little quick measurement before we started. So the pages in the second half are smaller. You still don't spare any detail, but the good news for collectors is that these will be very affordable pages. The price will reflect the size. So there's going to be a chance for all collectors, something cool to get from Steve's Berserker, Poetry of Madness. If you're a fan of Steve, it's your first chance to get just killer art from him. Of course, if you're a Keanu fan, here you go. If you're a Berserker fan, there just hasn't been much Berserker art on the market. We've had some of our guys do covers. Daniel did a cover. James Herron did a cover. Trad did a cover. But otherwise, I have not seen much Berserker art. So it's You're getting 40 plus pages at this drop. It's going to happen this week. Stay tuned. I'll make the announcements soon. And yeah, that's it. Steve, thank you so much for joining us. Very exciting.
Thank you.
And we're gonna get this drop. Like I said, it's just a matter of days this week. So everyone, get ready. If you can pick up a pen and ink edition, you'll see all the art. You'll be able to sort of prioritize which pages. But like I said, these pages are going to start as low as $200, which is less than what it would cost just to get a con sketch from Steve. So again, we're making these are pages they're priced for all budgets, available to all collectors. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm excited. So, Steve, once again, thank you, and we'll do this again, because even though there's no Matrix art, there's other art that's exciting and I've yet to discover, and we can talk about too. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, great.
Okay. All right. Let's see. We got any other questions from the audience? No. Okay. You know what? Let's do that giveaway. Let's do it. Jason, you ready for the giveaway? This is going to be for signed and sketched Berserker Poetry of Madness pen and ink edition. So if you guys want a chance at winning this prize, just type in Skroce. Skroce. It's not Skroce. It's Skroce. Skroce, like Jim Croce.
Well, it actually is Skroce.
Is it?
Well, to be honest with you, Skroce's probably more accurate, but I've always gone by Skroce, so
okay.
We have to change it now.
Okay. Well, we're gonna go with whatever you say.
I answered to just about anything.
Okay. That's it's Eastern European, right?
Croatian.
Yeah, Croatian. Yeah. We got a lot of people typing in Skroce.
All right.
At some point, we're going to a lot of people. John McClanahan, hello. Modoc Mike, Mark V, Robert Antoniak, Pat L. A lot of people chiming in. Wraith 1701. I guess he's a Star Trek fan. Nathan Chatham, Bob McGann, and so on. Ben H. And some of you I've said before. Mike Sitchy. Okay, I think we're ready to go. Jason, why don't you hit that randomizer? I'm not sure if Jason's there. He is. Okay. We're going to draw.
So you're going to find out who wins right now?
We're going to find out who wins right now.
Oh. Look at this. Whoa. Whoa.
Ben H. Congratulations, Ben H.
Comes
you
out
are our winner. I know, Ben. We were just texting, but it's not. Trust me, it's not fixed. You guys all saw it happen.
He's not using AI, is he?
I don't know. I have no clue. I have no clue. All I know is Ben H won. Congratulations, Ben H. Thank you, everyone, for joining in. And but we're not done yet. We say goodbye to Steve. We're going to say hello to Dave Mandel. Steve, you're welcome to hang on if you want, but we're just going to talk. We're going to go from the artist to the collector, and I think you know of Dave, right? Because don't you?
Oh, yeah, he's legendary.
Hi, Steve. Huge fan. I just want to say, first of all, that was bullshit. I typed in Skroce, and I didn't see my name in there. I wanted in on that thing. Absolute bullshit, Felix. That's what I'm saying to you. Your system is rigged. I should have been allowed to be a winner of that thing, or at least get a chance for that thing. Anyway.
Well, I can trade you some stuff for that X-wing.
All right. Well, we'll talk. We'll see what you got.
Well, I got to put the kids to bed right now, so
alrighty.
I'm going to leave.
Well, it was nice to say hello, if nothing else.
Yeah, you too.
Really cool.
Have a great show, you guys.
Thanks a lot, Steve. All right, I'll talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
I think Jason will zap you off. Dave, welcome. Part two for this show, but also part two for you in your your fundraiser for the X-wing.
Yeah, although it's funny, I don't even think about it that way as much anymore. But I mean, I realize it is, but it's just been it's been a little bit of a I don't know. It's an abstract. It's I'm putting things in auction and then I think about it later. If that makes any sense, I know it doesn't.
I mean, you don't have the X-wing in hand yet, do you?
Not yet. Hopefully, very soon.
Okay, all right. So I just imagine that once it's in your hand, if it hasn't been completely paid off yet, maybe you stop thinking of it that way. But until you have it in hand, I mean, they're connected.
They are. It's they definitely are. It's not connected. It's just I don't know. I guess God bless just everything and the way everything's working. I don't feel like the ticking clock of doom. Do you know what I mean? It's like I put some stuff in. I pulled a bunch of stuff and I gave it to them and they put some stuff in one auction. They put some stuff in this auction. They've already kind of know what they're going to be they already kind of know what's in the next auction. So I'm not thinking about it. It's not weighing on me. Does that make any sense? Maybe it does.
Do they consider the Stormtrooper and X-Wing like a block, a package? You have to pay.
I haven't even asked them that. I'm just sort of
because you could take the Stormtrooper now.
I guess so. I'm gonna probably at some point get it all or not. I guess it seems easier, shipping wise.
Yeah, for under any other circumstance, we'd be talking about fundraising for a Stormtrooper, and yet somehow, you've topped that with this crazy X-wing, which is just nuts. And here we are. We'll be back again, like 5 more times after this. But people
look, if it wasn't an X-wing, it'd be some piece of art. I mean, at some point or another, that's the game at this point. You know what I mean? It's a little bit of constantly upgrading, and in a perfect world, trying not to spend new cash, I guess. So constantly upgrading one way or another. That's I am. Even in this last auction, I bought a piece, and I probably would have bought more if I'd thought about it. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, that's crazy to me because you're not purely fundraising; you're still collecting. You even bought more art from this last auction, and
the right piece comes my way. I'm definitely still interested in art. I mean, I think my threshold of what I'm looking for, just because of I guess lucky enough with what I have, is there's a sort of it's very narrow these days, but when the right piece shows, I guess I'm ready to pounce, such as it is.
Okay, so let's get into this because you're jumping from our podcast to another podcast. We're a bit under a time crunch here, so let's just get right into it. How many pieces total, by the way, did you? How many pieces total were in last auction?
I honestly don't have any memory of it. There were definitely a lot more pieces on the day. Was it day 3? Is that how it was? Day 1, day 2, day 3, or was it 2 days? 2 days.
This time was 2 days. This time was
I had a lot more pieces in the day 2, rightly or wrongly. So there were a lot more. I guess like. How does one say it? Like $5,000 pieces, if that makes sense. Like odds and ends of things, like just random. It's like some of it was, and I admit this was a lot of clearing out my random drawer. Again, things I like, but nothing that I was quite married to on the sort of day 2 of it all. The day 1 were the better pieces.
Right. I'm just looking at 22 pieces.
Yeah, that's a bunch.
22 pieces. Yeah.
But you see, a bunch of them were on that second day.
And what are we starting off here? We're starting off with John Byrne, Terry Austin, X-Men 121, page 17. This is, this is blue chip. This is about as blue chip as it gets from.
Yeah, I thought this was a
super
solid page. Obviously, not the first appearance of Vindicator, but certainly the first appearance of Alpha Flight, wherever that fits into the world these days. Good Wolverine action, which seems to be what people are looking for on a nice Byrne Austin page. That first panel, I think, is super iconic. So yeah, I think it's a really solid page, and I think it was got a really nice solid price. I mean, I think in the height of the pandemic, I think we were seeing 100K Byrne X-Men pages, and this is an 81K one. And I guess I could sit here and say, yeah, sure, it wouldn't have been great if it went 100, but I thought this is exactly what I wanted. I guess I don't know how else to put that.
So you're happy. You're good. You're good with this.
Yeah. I mean, I think across the board, and for those of you guys, and I don't know who was here last time. There were definitely a couple of things last time around that definitely I was a little disappointed in. And this time, I don't think I'm particularly disappointed in anything. I still do wonder about One Piece, but I'm not disappointed. And I did actually protect myself. So we can talk about that when we get to it, which is, I think it's up next. I'm not sure. I can't remember.
Okay. Next one.
This is actually, I think this is a fine number. I will tell you, there was a reserve on this piece. I don't know if people noticed that when they were bidding. I don't know what it shows or didn't show.
I think it showed 90K.
Yeah, I basically decided I wasn't going to let this leave me unless it got to 100K, and obviously did a little bit over. I can sit here and I can say to you, I don't quite know why this didn't go crazy. I mean, I know it's an early page, and I know obviously it's an early page. I was going to say, I know it's a little cruder. It's not necessarily the Cockrum, the perfect Cockrum style. He's not being inked by Austin, where it makes him better too. But that top panel, I don't know. I mean, again, I know it's their backs and all of those things. I don't know. This is more of a philosophical question and less about, I don't know. This is, I guess, a sort of a philosophical X-Men question. The giant size one pages, like the first appearance of Nightcrawler and all that kind of stuff, those have all gone for only around 100K, and this did the same. I don't know why this isn't a 300, 400K book. I'm not talking about being disappointed. I don't understand the market on this book right now. This is giant size X-Men 1. I'm not getting into the whole first appearance nonsense. I'm just saying this is giant size X-Men 1. It's the most important modern day book. And I guess I don't understand why any of the pages, I'm not talking about just my page, aren't selling for more money.
I actually think, as important as this book is, and you can't ignore the first appearance aspect.
I'm not ignoring it. I'm just trying. It is the first appearance, but I think it is the king of first appearances.
In my opinion, I think aesthetics trumped both those factors at this time. And because as great as that top panel is in terms of the sheer number of your heroes and first appearances and whatnot, the back facing is just. It's not going to inspire the crazy bidding. If even just some of them were front facing, or I'll even say if just Wolverine, you could see him was front facing. Who knows, right?
I get it. I get what you're telling me. And again, I'm saying I know it is. I guess I'll just simply say, I don't know. I find it stupid. I don't know. I'm laughing. Again, the number's fine. I'm happy. I got what I ultimately thought I would get out of it. I just honestly, I guess I just disagree. Let me go the other way. This page shows up in auction, and I don't have what I have from Giant Size 1, and I'm chasing this higher. I'll tell you that. So I guess I just don't understand the collector that doesn't like this piece more. I don't know. It's a very specific thing,
Michael Patrick Sullivan says, going to have to catch replay, stopping to say hi and thank David for the Star Wars book from last podcast. Great show, everyone. And that wasn't just any Star Wars book. That was the IDW Star Wars Artist Edition, which I know, Michael, after he received it from you, it was like perfect timing because Howard Chaykin was at his show.
Oh, I heard you went and got it, Michael, got Chaykin to sign it. Oh, that's great. That's fantastic.
You got another one of those to give away tonight?
I do. If people want one, I got one.
Wow. Stay tuned, guys. You're going to have a chance to win actually quite a nice artist edition. I really like it a lot. I paid for mine, but you're going to get a chance to win one for free, courtesy of Dave. Always generous, Dave. Thanks so much, Dave.
Yeah, no, it's a real favorite book of mine. Scott Dumbier was very nice in allowing me to be involved with it, and I definitely.
Well, there's no artist edition without your involvement.
No,
so-
but I mean, I actually helped hunt down pages. I kind of, I would never call myself a co-editor or anything of that nature because I didn't do that, but I definitely helped gather and grab from sources and stuff. And so it was a real labor of love also on top of it, I think being a great book. So yeah.
Okay. Next.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm going to say this one last time and just
Yeah.
to create controversy and whatnot. I just think people are out of their mind that don't think this page is better. I don't understand a world where, again, I get it. Iron Man, whatever. This is an incredible page. And it's aesthetically beautiful. I don't care. Backs or no backs. It's just, I don't know. Anyway, everyone's wrong. I don't understand our collecting anymore. But anyway, go on.
Well, look, whoever got it should be happy then.
Yes, they should be.
Okay. All right. Next slide. And here we go. This is Frank Miller, Daredevil 190. Second to last cover, I believe. And you got Daredevil and you have Elektra. And this, I think this was your highest
Yes.
your highest result. $252,000 all in. And what's interesting about this, because you mentioned the reserve on the giant size X-Men page, I think there was a reserve on this cover, which was the same amount, $90K.
Yeah, I was basically covering both of them with a sense of I did not want them leaving me basically for less than 100,000. In this case, it did not matter. And in fact, the day, I can't remember which day, a couple of days before the auction, I could see the number of people watching and whatever. And Todd Hignite actually wrote me to say, do I want to pull the reserves? But he got the day wrong. I think he would admit that. I don't think I'm saying anything out of school. And I wrote him back, or maybe I wrote him back too late. Maybe it was my fault. I said, yeah, pull him. I think it's going to be okay. But it was too late. We were going to pull the reserves because at some point you had a sense. But obviously I did not necessarily know it was going to do 252,000. Miller, if we're just talking sort of market for a minute, Miller seems to right now just be the pinnacle of the sort of 80s artists right now. It's Frank Miller and there's everybody else, it seems like.
Eclipse Byrne, which is
Yes
shocking to me.
Well, I think right now, although I mean, not that Daredevil is exactly having a moment in the sun, although I guess we do know there is more of that Daredevil TV show coming. I do wonder, I'll be curious to see what happens someday, assuming they're ever able to make a good X-Men movie again. I do wonder if that is having some sort of residual effect on the, I don't know, maybe the speculator side of the market. I don't know. I have wondered about that a little bit.
I think to the extent that any comic artist, especially from this period, can be considered respectable, I think Miller is someone you can make an argument for more than Byrne. As much as people have always loved Byrne, and Byrne's been highly valued, and Byrne is, of course, an amazing artist. I think there's more and more appreciation for Frank Miller as a creator and what he was, what he pulled off in that 10-year window, even before Sin City. Just unbelievable.
No, I agree. I think also it's easier just to go and with all respect to Klaus Janson, it's a little bit of a one-man band. Obviously, Janson was the inker, but I do think it's easy to kind of go, it's all Miller. He was writing it and he drew it, and you're kind of getting all of that. And obviously, when you buy a Byrne page, you are getting Claremont word balloons on it, but it's not quite the one-man band in the same way. And I don't mean, again, I'm not trying to dismiss Klaus Janson. I'm just saying you had sort of a writer-artist sort of thing going on there that I think, I don't know, does seem to help. But, this was a cover. I had other covers that I've let go of before this one. This one I always wrestled a little bit with it being on multiple boards and sort of not attempted, but in my brain thought about trying to, I don't know if you can scroll down to, I don't know what you have or don't have. Yeah, you can see the two boards there. At some point or another, I looked into the idea, if you can imagine, of cutting out the figure, not a perfect cutout, but kind of going around the, like leaving a little bit of a border around any sort of black line, including the smoke, and then trying to place that on top of the other board. And I ultimately didn't have enough confidence, never did it quite, whatever. I still think it was great. And like I said, I held on to it longer than I held on to some other covers, even though it was on the two boards. So wherever that fits into the world, I will miss it, as they say.
And, speaking of Miller values, there was a Daredevil page, an interior page. That went for 144. That's not from you.
Not mine. Yeah.
And that was bananas. That was just nuts. Yeah.
A very good page, but wow, just wow. Yeah.
And what's funny is if people know the page that I own, it's in my calf gallery. I had a choice between that page from you, the one that's in my gallery, or the page that I just sold for roughly around the same value. And I liked the one I got from you as more of a single standalone. I think it may have been even a tad cheaper, and that may have influenced my thought. But in any case, I had a chance at that page too. And who knew? Just freaking nuts.
Because you were buying what you liked. I mean, that's the good news. Buying what you like, not really thinking about one day I'm going to put it in auction and sell it.
I know. It's just funny to remember that, and here we are today. Okay, next.
I will say. I don't know if people remember. This piece was in auction many years ago, and it sort of didn't sell, and I sort of bought it after the fact. And I honestly bought it at the time more out of I cannot believe no one's buying this thing. Like at the time, I think the two board thing bothered people more, I guess. I don't know. But it was like, it didn't move. And I couldn't believe it when it sort of fell into my lap, which is what it literally did at the time. So
Marcus Way says, profile of that page raised by attention from this cover. I'm not sure which went first. Did the page go first or the cover go first? If the cover went first, then maybe there was a little halo effect for the page, in which case, that consignor was lucky you put this cover in.
Yeah, I don't know. I know one of the people, I think, that was the underbidder, and I don't think he went after the page. He was definitely looking for the cover, but that doesn't mean, it didn't have an effect. But anyway.
All right, next slide, Jason. R. Adams Sampler, his sketchbook cover.
I felt
2003.
Yeah, this is one of his sketchbook pieces. This is a piece I owned in a very complicated way many years ago. I believe I bought this piece from Arthur for Dave Stevens, who really loved this piece. And I didn't even put this in the description, but this was in Dave's collection for a very, very long time. And at some point, I think when he got sick, I think I bought it back. So I sort of owned it, then kind of traded it to Dave for something that he did that I had wanted, that we sort of worked out because he wanted this. And that's why I sort of picked it up with that intent of purpose. So I owned it, then traded it to him. And then at some point when Dave was ill, I bought it back and to put some money in his pocket. And I have always liked it. And oddly enough, I was texting back and forth with Joyce, Arthur's wife, and he was thinking, I think he threw a couple of bids on it, and I felt bad because I was like, oh, I didn't know you wanted it back, and he liked it because Dave liked it. So I don't know, it's sort of a funny story. Arthur actually has drawn this piece, I think, a couple of times. There's a Hella version that he did, and maybe something else, sort of this basic similar framework. But I always thought this was really quite lovely. Like I said, I'd originally always bought it because it was for Dave, and while that was a fond memory, it was not anything I needed to own, and I think a very solid number.
So you're good with this number.
Yeah, again, it's not a cover from the run of something. I think it's a very good number for, I think, an original piece from a couple of years ago. I don't know. Okay. Feel free to disagree. Anyone in the crowd? I don't know. Did we put them to sleep? I hope
not. Next slide. This is Howard Bender and Tony DeZuniga, Star Wars Weekly, number 17. This is from the UK.
Yeah, I I have a bunch of these. I bought a bunch of these years ago from Mr. Bender, among other people. I just bought these as I bumped into them. No one cared about them. Uh, and as I was going through my very large Star Wars art collection, I kind of realized that I don't have much attachment to these weeklies. I bought them because they were interesting, and I have been sort of pleasantly surprised by these numbers, just because, again, obviously, the UK is I don't know, obviously someone's from the UK, and I do wonder, is the buyer a UK buyer or a Star Wars buyer or a UK Star Wars buyer? But anyway, I have been very pleasantly surprised as I made sort of the decision that I didn't need to hold on to my weekly pieces. And I've sort of there's been like one or so each auction or a splash and these things. And these have been a very pleasant surprise as well. So again, a thumbs up.
So last time we did the show, the early results were very upsetting, including the Daredevil.
I know. I think upsetting makes for better podcasting, though. I feel like I should be raging at something. I don't know. I'm sorry.
But so far, this second go around, so far so good. So at this point, are you waiting for the other shoe to drop? Are you waiting to get, thoroughly disappointed by something?
It's funny. After the Daredevil went, I guess if I can talk about my morning that day, I was like, I kind of nodded at the Byrne. I went like at the cock room. Again, it was okay, but it was definitely, it was the bare minimum. But I was okay. Again, I set a reserve and it met the reserve, right? So mission accomplished. And then the Daredevil happened, and then I stopped paying much attention at that point. So everything was sort of a surprise, I guess. At some point, I looked later and went, oh. And so everything felt pretty good.
Okay. Next slide, Jason. Another John Byrne piece, Secret Origins Annual #1, Doom Patrol cover from 1987.
I took a little loss on this. I only bought this like a couple of years ago in a heritage auction. And I got to be honest, and this is embarrassing to admit, when I won it, I was like, why did I buy that? I mean, honestly, it's an issue I liked. I enjoy his take on it. But when I won it, I went, oh, I'm just bored. I don't know what to say. And so I put it back in.
So nothing wrong with the cover, nothing wrong with the art.
No,
but just not a keeper.
It wasn't a keeper, and it was definitely, it's the one piece. It's funny, in the last probably 5 years, it's one, or maybe even 10 years, it's the one piece I can that I can point to, that I honestly kind of broke my own rule. And when it showed up, I just went, why did I buy this? Like, I mean, literally just sort of like, I don't need this. This is not I think he did a fine job. I like Robot Man. I like Doom Patrol. I didn't need this cover, That's the sad truth. And hopefully it'll be another 10 years before I do that again. So yeah.
Next slide. Dick Dillon, Dick Giordano, Justice League of America #168 from 1979. Was this nostalgia? Do you remember this one?
This was nostalgia. This was an early issue I bought on a family trip at some point or another. And oddly enough, this is the one that Brad Meltzer keyed in on for the Identity Crisis storyline, I believe, because they switched position, they switched bodies, and then figured out some of their, I can't remember, I think they figured out secret identities, and I don't know, they attacked like family members and stuff. And so there was a whole to do. And in some ways, when that came out, it for me, I put a smile on my face, just because this was what issue is this number? Sorry, this is
168. Yeah, 168.
This is, when you're first kind of getting into books, but you don't have a comic book store. It was like, I bet you I read something in the 130s, and then something in like the 140s, and then this issue, and then something again not till the 170s, and then somewhere during it was the Perez's first issue, when he takes over for Dick Dillon, when Dick Dillon dies, I believe in the middle of doing the Fourth World JLA JSA crossover, and Perez takes over and then takes over the book that I got hooked on Justice League. And so even though this was an early issue for me, those are probably my favorite memories, if that makes any sense. And
so you've talked about how as nice as these consignments are, as nice as the art is that you're letting go to fundraise for the X-Wing, you're letting them go because you have better examples for your.
Yes,
for your
I
collection.
have. Forgive me, I don't remember numbers so well. I have 180 whatever, which is the big.
That's what I'm asking is. Do you own Dick Dillon JLA cover nicer than this? Because this is a nice one.
I own a Justice League cover that's more important to me that happens to be by Perez. So I guess that's all I care about.
Okay,
it's
so
not
because you have the Perez, you're okay with letting go of the Dillon.
Yes, I have what I truly consider to be my first issue of seriously reading Justice League, if that makes any sense, as opposed to this, which was a semi-random purchase as a child. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So I remember it fondly, and it puts a smile on my face. I didn't need to keep owning it, I guess. It's kind of where I came out.
All right. Next slide, Jason.
And again, there have been a bunch of those on the market lately. And I thought, that guy, forgive me, who passed away had a bunch of Dillon covers. And I thought this one did a little bit better than some of those have been doing for whatever reason. So I was,
that one was a really excellent one. You had. Okay, here we go. This is Kevin Maguire, Terry Austin's Justice League #1 from the very first issue, 16/8. What do you think? You good with that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, look, it's the page before the One Punch page. You know what I mean? So it's sort of like it's about to be one of the best pages in the history of comics, but it's not. But it seemed to have a residual effect, and definitely for fans of that run, it had a lot of what was very memorable about that run, with Batman saying, put a couple of them in a room together, and the allow me kind of leads into the one punch. I have a bunch of other stuff from Justice League by Maguire. This seemed expendable. This seemed like a pretty good number for a interior page of Justice League.
If you owned the One Punch page,
I would not get rid of it.
Right, because this is the setup, so you need this. Okay,
Yeah.
So by getting rid of this, then you don't ever expect to get the One Punch page.
I don't, and I'm not quite sure at this day and age I would pay the money for whatever that page would do, which I can only assume would be more than this one. I can only hope that maybe the guy that is buying this has the One Punch page and was putting it together. So I like to think that, but maybe not.
Does the Kevin Maguire Justice League #1 cover do anything for you?
It does. It very much does.
So if that shows up, is that on your hit list? I mean, is that something you would
I think I would chase it to a point. I guess, I don't quite know where Crazy is anymore, but so we'll see.
Is that a six-figure cover to you? Not that you would chase it to that level, but do you think
I believe it could be a six-figure cover? I'm not sure I would spend six figures on it. How's that? That's, I guess, my answer. But I would not be shocked, and I guess to me it is worthy of six-figure-dom. I'm just not sure it is for me.
Okay, big fan of this run. Loved it.
Big fan of the run. Yes, exactly.
And that #1 cover is such a #1 cover.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so representative of the run. Okay, next slide. And this is the Jim Lee X-Men corner box art from 1991. Prime Jim Lee X-Men. What are the dimensions on this thing?
I mean, it's on a page of art, but the art whatever is like, it's 2 inches by 4.5 inches.
Yeah, it's basically a couple of postage stamps.
Yeah,
and
again, not to whatever. It's a little loose. I mean, it got better with shrinking it down. You know what I mean?
By the way, how do you frame that? It would be like the most ridiculous mat, unless you cut out that art out.
I feel like you could cut it out without anyone yelling at you, but you can see in the Beast's face, and everyone's a little loose. You know what it reminds me of in a way, and this is I don't mean this in any kind of a bad way. It reminds me a little bit of the Jim Lee card art. Do you know what I'm talking about? That set of card art where those, although on those, he sometimes drew two of them on one page, so you would get like a double image. Have you ever seen any of those originals?
No.
They sort of circulated around. I don't know if they were sold or not sold, but I definitely seen the originals. And there's a little, they were drawn to be shrunk down, and there's a little looseness to it. And I think, I don't know. That's not a bad thing. It just is a thing,
That's 33.6. Happy?
Yeah, I had no idea what to expect. I had people telling me, I had ranges from 10 to 100,000 of people telling me what they thought it was going to go for.
Sell your art to the 100K guy.
The 100K guy, like all 100K guys, was not making an offer. He was just making wild predictions.
Yeah, based on not a whole lot. Dick.
Well, Jim Lee art sells for a bunch. This is Jim Lee art. It's not exactly what anybody wants, but it's also not terrible either.
The next one is this is not your highest result, but this is for me.
It's not my highest result, but it was the biggest shock, I guess.
Yeah,
it was the biggest surprise.
Mike Manola and John Nyberg, Dracula trade paperback wraparound cover. And by the way, I didn't realize the covers were also inked by Nyberg. I thought this was by the Nyberg, fantastic on Manola, and just an awesome inker. Because he did a lot on Steve Rude, and I don't mind at all.
And really, to his credit, really laid down the blacks and black in a wonderful way. Yeah. And
this goes for $144,000.
Yeah, I was shocked to say the least. Yeah. I was shocked. Yeah.
Talking to people afterward, I know a couple of people who chased it. They, even though this isn't, like you believe the single issue from the run should be the most valuable. But for them, it was all about the aesthetics of the art. It is from that same period. There's not much difference to them between the single issues and the collection. And they all find this far superior and the definitive Manola Dracula piece from the right time, from the, that when this book was coming out. And it drove at least three people to chase it north of 100K.
God bless them all. I'm not looking to argue. Again, I was pleasantly surprised. This is I always like the piece. It just, again, there's nothing wrong with it. I just was easy. It was easy enough to let go, and how does one say, to knock a big chunk of my bill off one way or another, however you want to think about it.
Some people wondered, what does this mean for Dracula pages? And I don't think anything. I think this is just an outlier.
I think completely unconnected. I think Dracula pages, a good page will still do well. I think people like those pages, especially, there are better pages than other pages, and I think they will still draw. I think pages will still do well. I don't think we are about to see a crazy jump in the pages, though. I think they're just going to be good. Yeah.
And even with there's 4 issues in the miniseries, I don't know that this really has any effect on those covers either, because I don't know that these bidders who were, after this, feel the same way about any of those. Maybe number 1 because it's number 1, but this is a double cover. The thing is, though, it wasn't 2 people chasing it all the way up. There was a third person. So even if you take out the winner of the piece, there would still be 2 people at 100K plus. I don't know that how motivated they are to go after any other piece. Again, I think this was just this was a unique and special occasions, and congrats to you. Congrats to the winner.
Not complaining, and certainly an example of something where, on my wildest day, if you came at me with a nice offer, you probably could have had this for, I don't know, like almost a third of the number. You know what I mean? If you'd come at me.
So basically, if someone had come to you, you're saying if someone had come to you before the offer and I said, I'll give you 50K for it, you might have sold it?
Yeah, probably. I think I would have thought that
I would say conversely, If you had said this is 100K or 144K, like no one would have bought it. I think this just happened.
I agree with that too. I agree with that.
I
Also.
think
So
this just happened.
This is an example where auctions really do work for you. And I'm not going to lie, and I think I said this to you, Felix, but I'll say it for your audience. I like to close my eyes and I like to pretend that this is what like the Daredevil by Colin sold for in the last auction, and that the number that sold for is what this sold for, if that makes any sense. I just move them in the numbers.
That's what I told you to do. I mean, just keep yourself sane, so you don't you can't just focus on the ones you're disappointed by. I mean, you have to look at the overall number at the end, because like piece by piece, you're going to win some, lose some. It's all about that number at the end. Did you hit your target? Make your goal. Next, is
it weird if I tell you I just want to win them all? Is that strange to say? Admit that I just want to win them all? No,
that tracks. I mean, I believe that of you. And it just so happens after this, we're kind of getting into the Sunday part of the auction. I think the rest of these are all pretty much Sunday. But these are nice numbers. These are nice pieces. I like this. I
thought these were all nice numbers. that Sunday was brutal. I don't know if anybody else was bidding on stuff or watching.
Unending. It was just
unending. Yeah. Again, obviously you don't have to listen, but like even just like trying to follow along if you had the sound on with that sort of auto fake auctioneer.
The robo auctioneer.
Yeah, it kind of was. It was brutal. It was a slog. And it did, I don't know, it almost felt like better to be the first half of the alphabet. I don't think anything did terribly, but I definitely feel like most people were putting a number in and walking away. There was not as much bidding, I guess is what I would say.
I mean, I've always phone bid on lots that I'm, really want, that I'm serious about. And part of that is because my ADD will not allow me to follow these auctions. I will lose track. I will, I'm just not going to.
No, I was.
How many times, like I look up and my lot is long past. I just couldn't hang in there.
I've never missed one, but I have checked 400 times on the journey to it, because I'm convinced that somehow, as slow as it's going, that when I'm not looking, it's sped up, even though in some cases it went even slower. And so I was trying to bid. There were two pieces that I bid on. One I lost out on and one I won on that. Was that Sunday? Sorry. Yeah, it was Sunday. Mm-hmm. And funny enough, Ryan and I were recording two different shows. We did a live YouTube at 12 noon Pacific time, and I sort of held it up and said, look, I'm bidding, and it never got to it before that show was over. And then we recorded another episode that wasn't live, and I was trying to bid during that. One of the pieces came up, the M. I was following the Todd McFarlane Infinity Inc. ad. I don't know if you saw that piece. I did not win it, but I have a soft spot in my heart for Infinity Inc. It is what it is. So I was sort of following that, and I did not win. I threw a bid on it, but I got outbid. And then I was waiting for Toddlebin for the Swamp Thing 53 page, which you were kind enough to not bid against me on. And that took forever to get to. It just did. It just took absolutely forever. I don't know. But yeah, exhausting.
1 for 2, and you got the more important of the two. So
I did. I was thrilled to get the one I got and very happy, but just exhausting. It was a slog. It was a real slog.
I'm gonna give a shout out to my friend collector Jared Simmons, who is doing Bill Cox's show right now, because he just put up a. It's not Infinity Inc. It's an All-Star Squadron McFarlane cover with Dr. Fate that I remember really, really well.
Oh, I remember that cover. That's bounced around a little bit, hasn't it?
Well, he's got it, and it looks great. Yeah. And it's like one of those instant nostalgia things. Okay, so this is Raiders of the Lost Ark. Star Wars pages, anything Star Wars, original trilogy goes for $1 gazillion. This is a splash page, 4,800. Does this feel light to you? Or are you good?
My buddy Chuck Costas thought it would do a little bit better. Okay, but fine. I don't know. We're now getting into with things like this where I probably paid $200 for this page, so it's hard to quibble.
Next slide. And this is a From Hell page.
This was an issue. I had a lot of this. This was sort of part of Dr. Gull's tour of London.
Yeah.
And this is kind of what I know there was a page or two that went crazy, but regular pages is a fine number. It seemed like,
I thought it was a nice buy for the buyer. I mean, the ones that go crazy are the really, it's Jack the Ripper.
Yeah, no one's getting murdered on these.
Right. No, there's no evisceration and
correct.
And
There's no guts. There's no summonings or anything like that. It's really, I mean, it's a very pretty Eddie Campbell drawing, classic London, and it's really just about the words in the balloon as much as anything. And so that's what I liked about it. But it's a pretty, I hate to say a pretty dead page, but it is. And again, if I kept better and let this go and seemed good again, but again, you see what I mean? Everything was kind of $5,000, just everything.
Next slide. Travis Charest, Flash Gordon, Dale Arden. This is from 2014. So this is, I mean, relatively speaking, kind of recent.
Yeah.
What made you pick this up in the first place?
I thought it was really cool. I liked the photorealism of it, and I did enjoy it for a number of years. And then at some point or another, as I was thumbing through stuff and looking at artists, I just went, this is gorgeous. Someone will like this more than me. I mean, I don't know what else to say,
7,800. You go with that number?
Seemed fine.
Okay. I actually watched these shows when they were on, they broadcast them on TV around Star Wars, just anything sort of sci-fi related. And of course there was the whole serial connection with Star Wars, but this was a thing,
This was an actual serial. Well, the story goes, if everyone is to be believed, that Lucas tried to get the rights to Flash Gordon from what's his name?
Was it King Features maybe? Or
King Features had already, I think, sold them to what's his name, the producer.
Dino De Laurentiis?
Dino, yeah. And
right.
Dino wasn't interested in letting them go or having Lucas involved or whatever. And Lucas kind of went, okay, I'll write my own. Some version of that, I believe, is the story.
Yeah. Next slide. This is a Howard Chaykin and Tom Palmer page from Star Wars #9, early page.
Yeah,
like my ADD, I just wasn't even paying attention. But this seems like a really good buy for someone. We started off with the talking about aesthetics with the Dave Cockrum Giant Size X-Men. This is Star Wars. It's the right guy Chaykin. It's a great inker, but the page is, it's aesthetically not the prettiest. But still, all is forgiven as far as I'm concerned at the right price. And this to me felt like a good price. You got Han Solo.
It seems solid. Look, let's be honest. Everybody really wants pages from the original adaptation, and quite honestly, they really want pages more from issue 1 than any of the other five issues. And this is issue 9, and it's a great page. I don't know. I think again, it's hard for me to complain.
Yeah, look, bottom line for me, great price, and congrats to the buyer. Okay, next slide. We're powering through. See, this is Tony DeZuniga, Marvel Super Action #1 Punisher page, early Punisher for 3,100.
Yeah, I grabbed this a million years ago from Chuck Costas. He was letting go of some Punisher stuff, and
I'm really surprised. I don't ever remember seeing this, but again, I haven't even come close to seeing everything. I would not have guessed Dave Mandel would have been interested in this page.
And I grabbed it because it was the Punisher, and I kind of liked it, and I remembered reading it, and then I kind of looked at it and just went, I don't need this, and there you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next slide. Michael Golden. Inked by Mike DiCarlo. Batman Special #1 from 1984.
I actually really love this story, The Player on the Other Side, and I guess I keep hoping that someday the cover will show itself. I would love to get that cover, and I will bid on it if it shows itself. The page is fine. It was just nothing. I didn't think it was the page I wanted from the book, and so I sold it. But certainly if the right page showed up, I might grab it. There's a couple of really interesting pages early on in the book where you're sort of seeing Batman's origin on the top layer and the Wraith's origin on the bottom, that kind of do a little bit more of the whole opposite thing. And I don't know. So I'm not abandoning this book, but this just wasn't the page for me, and I let it go. And again, seems fine for a golden page from a story that most people don't necessarily care about. You know what I mean?
If this was a Marvel page from the same period, much bigger result. Even though this is
I think if this
Batman,
was whatever, like a Micronauts or something. Yes,
I know
of course,
that's fine. This is the one time and Micronauts would beat Batman.
I just don't think it's a well-known story for whatever reason. I'm not sure it's ever been reprinted. It's a great story. I think it's written by Mike Barr, who's a big Sherlock Holmes fan. I think it's Mike Barr, and it's got kind of a. I highly recommend it for everybody that hasn't read it. It's got kind of a. It was an attempt to create this sort of like a Moriarty for him in a little bit, like sort of like this opposite number. And no one ever picked the character up in all the years of everybody, strolling through old issues and bringing back characters. I don't think anyone's ever brought the Wraith back. And there's a version probably where he easily, great one shot. I agree. He easily, could have been, like in Hush or something. I mean, again, the character, people have sort of taken elements of the story, but never quite the character, if that makes any sense. Anyway, good issue.
Next, Jason. This is a Harvey page. A Harvey Kurtzman one-pager. Where is this published?
Not even. It's a teeny tiny little strip. It's about like I don't know if they have the measurements, like a 4 inches by an inch or something, 6 by 2. Yeah. We never were quite sure. I think it looked like something from like one of his PS strips or something, like one of these little marginalia drawing things, but it's Kurtzman, and it made me laugh, but didn't need it compared to some of the other Kurtzman I have in my collection. And again, what can I say? Seemed fine.
Well, big name, but not something I would have guessed that you have, but it's cool. I mean, you collect pretty broadly, and obviously not just covers and absolute marquee pieces. So
I will tell you philosophically, as I am doing this, and obviously I am letting go of some big pieces, and obviously I'm trying not to let go of big pieces I want to keep, but I'm letting go of big pieces that I have better versions of. But at the same time, if I can, I hate to say it like this, clear out a couple of drawers, you know what I mean, and let go of some things where, yes, this 1860 isn't necessarily in and of itself going to pay any bills, but it adds up. There's no other way of saying it. And I guess if I can sell a lot of little stuff I don't care about and get to a number that then I don't have to sell something I actually like, I'm a happy guy. And I guess that's part of the plan, if that makes any sense.
I mean, even X-Wing aside, you said you got a piece this auction, the Toddlebin Swamp Thing page, where it went for a pretty good number.
Yeah, it went for much. It was higher. It was much higher than I expected. And so, if you can think of 1860 off the price of the Toddlebin, that's a good deal for me. Yeah.
I mean, we're going to go through all these, Sunday lots and add up whatever it takes to pay for that Toddlebin. It's a nice trade.
Yeah. If you had said to me, "Here's this pile for this," in a day. Yeah.
Yeah. Next slide, Jason. This is an Alex Malev Daredevil's 68 cover. Is that how it was published? Because his art on this run, and it was a really good run. It was Ed Brubaker. Oh, no, I'm sorry. It was Bendis.
Bendis. It was before Brubaker.
Really great run. But the art was kind of he drew elements and then pieced together digitally. But this looks complete.
There's no digital. I don't remember if it ran black and white or not. I got to be honest, or if they did a coloring to it, if they changed the white. In my mind, I want to say they may have changed the white to another color. I thought there was something to the black and white. I was reminded, oddly enough, of a there was an artist that it reminded me of. I'm trying to remember now. who was I thinking of that it reminded me of? Oh God, why can't I think anymore? I'll have to think later. His name will come to me. Anyway, it reminded me of an artist. I thought he was kind of, I don't mean this in a bad way. Chagall. I was thinking about Chagall. There's a couple of Chagall pieces that looked like it. I don't know why it kind of hit me. I thought it was fine and nice. I like that run. I bought it at the time. I bought it, I believe, from Anthony, who was Malev's rep and still is Malev's rep. I like the piece. I think it's a really nice piece. It's a piece that I came to sort of enjoy the art more than I think back on that run. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I just don't think about that run at all. And at some point or another, the nostalgia wasn't there for me, and it seemed expendable.
Yeah, he's not repped by Anthony anymore, but you say you kind of recall getting this from Anthony when he was repped by him?
Boy, I thought so. I really thought so. But I could be wrong, but I thought so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next slide, Jason. We're getting right down to it. Frank Springer, Transformers #2 page, and this was surprising to me. I didn't know you cared. I didn't know that you owned any Transformers art that you cared about.
Odds and ends, not a lot, but odds and ends, yeah. Again, but more truly in the odds and ends drawer, as they say.
Would you trade this vintage Transformers page from the first mini from issue 2 for a Daniel Warren Johnson Transformers page?
It would depend on the page. I might, yeah.
You know what's funny is I think Daniel's Transformers art is selling for more than even the vintage art, the nostalgia art. And, I'll just say, I think Daniel has brought a respectability to Transformers that wasn't there before.
I agree. I think it went from being this sort of toy thing that people were like, oh yeah, there was a comic, to obviously now think of it almost like as a comic unto itself in an interesting way. Yeah. Again, without offending anybody that worked on the original run. But a solid page here. There's a journeyman aspect to it all. Do you know what I mean?
Well, it was this is very definition of work for hire, a licensed toy property.
Yeah, I don't think this was anybody's sort of prime, like, I've got to get that gig. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that was anybody.
But if you're a Transformers fan from that period, this is a great page. So, like, all the stuff's been nice, but I'm guessing the guy who got this is probably pretty thrilled.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to be an a-hole, because I ultimately am happy. I feel like maybe he even got an ever so slight bargain by $1,000 or $2, maybe, dare I say?
Like I said, I think I'll bet they're absolutely thrilled. This is from the first mini, Optimus Prime, Skywarp, and I believe Thundercracker. If I'm Marcus will correct me, but you got a lot going on this page, so nice. Next slide, we're down to the home stretch, last 3 pieces. Gary Trudeau, Doonesbury strip, 5400. This is that Hunter Thompson analog character, yeah.
I think I believe Bob McGann, who's on here or was on here, unless we put him to sleep, he won it. I hope I'm not outing you, Bob. I'm sorry, but you wrote me and now I'm saying it out loud. So I think Bob won it. I think it's again, if you're into this is, you either know exactly what this is and want it. It's a Duke. It's a Duke Doonesbury piece. It's a pretty funny gag. Like I said, I have one I like a little bit more, and so this one left me and very happy. I don't know what else to say.
I just noticed you wrote in Skroce and I want in and bullshit on the private chat, in the green room chat. You're supposed to type it into the public chat.
I can't get into the public chat. I don't know how to sign in.
Yeah, you fucked up.
No, you should have been looking at the public chat and added me, in the private chat and added me.
Next slide.
Congrats, Bob. I'm glad it went to a good home. I think.
Yeah, congrats, Bob. For sure, congrats, Bob. This is something I believe I sold to you.
You did.
From Scotty Young. Yeah, so this is Scotty Young, a Star Wars triptych cover, 3 covers, all connecting. This went for $9,000, which I think is about what you paid for this back in the day. So
yeah, I'll say 2 things and take this as you will. Ultimately, and this has nothing to do with Scotty, who I am a huge fan of, I just came to not care about that Star Wars run. Like it started off well, and it for me just petered out, and ultimately, I guess for me the book went away, and it just became an image, and I'm not a big just an image guy, if that makes any sense. The book became meaningless to me. And so I can sit here and I can tell you I'd like to own other things by Scotty. I'd like to get Scotty to do a Bizarro for me someday, blah, 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 blah. I'm a fan, but the book became meaningless and I decided to let it go. I am not sitting here complaining, but I thought the Star Wars crazies and the Scotty's crazies might converge a little bit to get this piece, and I think this one suffered because his last name is Young. I think if I put this up myself on my CAF for a higher number, I could have sold this probably. So such is life. Yeah.
So we talked about it. The auction is that environment where you could get a crazy Dracula result, but then for a super long auction, the lots at the end could suffer.
Yeah, and I don't think this suffered in the sense of it didn't sell for $1, which I'd be sitting here going, that sucks. You know what I mean? But as you say, I probably owned it a couple of years, got some enjoyment out of it, and broke even, and that's okay too. I'm not. This is not woe is me, and this is not I'm complaining. I do think, oddly enough, of all the pieces, maybe I thought this one would do a little better. What can I tell you?
I'll tell you. I think of all the Star Wars runs. And, even the original Marvel run through 105 issues or whatever it was, the quality was just okay. I thought this with Jason Aaron, John Cassidy, and then followed up by Stuart Eminem. The art was so good, so strong. Do you not own any other art from this run? You just don't care. You don't own any other art from this run?
I think at this point I don't. I may have a couple of Noto pieces that I bought from Phil just because they're so incredible, but like they're not. I mean, I just love Phil stuff so much, so I maybe that doesn't count, or maybe that's what allows me to break my own rule. You're right. The art was great. The stories, I don't know, didn't do it for me.
All right. And we're closing the wrap up with the last piece. It's a Phil Hill, Johnny Badhair painting. So number one, you have a better Hale than this?
I do. This time. I do. I have one I like more. This is such a big piece. Just happy to get it out of my apartment. I think it's a good one, but I have a better one.
This is a finished one. This isn't one of the prelims.
At some point or another, sometimes I lose track of what he considers finished and what he considers a prelim. Because there are things he calls prelims that I think are as
right.
Good
that
as
looks completely finished. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I can't say that one way or another. I honestly don't know.
Do you remember where you got this from? Did you get
this
from
Phil? From Phil. Yeah.
Okay. Happy with the price?
Yeah, seemed fine. Probably could have gone a little higher if I'd shopped it myself and then shipped it myself, at which point the shipping would have made it cost, you know what I mean? Like this was easier at some point,
Okay. So 22 lots, second go around. I think you finished, if I'm not correct, around the same number overall as the first round, which
was a little less, but yes, a little less, but
but overall you're still happier.
Yeah. I just think things either got what they wanted or exceeded expectations. And there just definitely were pieces that, I don't know, I look back on and just kind of went, and again, you're absolutely right. When I put the two together and like just sort of kind of go, hey, I put this all together and it's, whatever, $1.4 million or whatever it is, all's well. But this did more on what I thought it was going to do, if that makes sense. I mean, that's the only way I can explain it. Yeah.
Okay. You're almost halfway there for the X-Wing. So congratulations.
And haven't had to let a Ditko go yet. So there you go.
You did get let a Ditko go last time.
Oh, you're right. I meant a Ditko I love, I guess. You're right. Good point. I did.
All right. So prize again from Dave is a sealed, unopened.
Well, unless you want me to sign it, you can decide that. You'll let Felix know. It can be unopened, or it can be I open it and sign it, because I can't sign it if I don't open it. So that's a decision for you to make.
Or maybe they'll have you sign on the tape or on the box.
I can sign the box. I'm absolutely happy to sign the box.
Okay, so the our 3 people are still in the audience. Type in X-Wing.
Really, are we literally down to 3?
I have no idea. Type in X-Wing if you want a shot at the prize. X-Wing. X-Wing.
Yes, Nick, 1,000%. That is. I mean, if I can teach anyone anything, that is what you should take from me, which is just empty the couch cushions and see what you got first before you let go of anything you really, really, really love. And don't get me wrong, I liked every piece here, and I can tell you stuff about every piece here. These were things I was willing to let go of, and some things that I cared a little less about or had lost, like I said, a little bit of nostalgia. So yeah.
Okay, X-Wing. I'm going to give everyone a chance to type that in, get a chance at the drawing, but I'll tell a quick story while people are doing that, which is I let something go that was in this auction, but I'm not the consigner. I let it go 15, 20 years ago. It was the Barry Windsor Smith Weapon X page. And a lot of people thought it was a great page. A lot of people loved it, and it ended up selling for almost $100K. I'd gotten it for about $4 or $5K, and I traded it to a collector I'm friendly with because he really, really wanted it. I mean, that was his thing, more than it was for me. And even though it was pretty, I really got what ended up being a pile of junk. Value-wise, it was fair. It might have even been tilted in my favor slightly. But bottom line is, don't trade an A for multiple Bs either.
Yeah, no, yeah. You will always regret that. I did find out that my co-host Ryan, if those of you haven't watched, by the way, I know someone said this earlier, Felix was a guest recently on the Stuff Dreams Are Made Of prop collecting podcast. Ryan did bid on it. He got outbid though. I found out, Felix.
I'm sorry about that. Would have been funny and sort of closed the circle if he had gotten it.
Yeah.
Okay, we have 30 entries for X-Wing for Star Wars Artist Edition. I think this thing retails for like $150. So nice prize. Another great prize from Dave. Always generous, Dave Mandel. So go ahead and hit the draw, Jason.
Always generous. Always happy to get extra copies of books out of my place. So yeah.
Here we go. Lambo. Someone we know very well, our own Lambert. So yeah, I've known the first winner was Ben H, Ben Huang, and the second winner is Jersey Lambo, and both Chinese guys. And I swear to you, I did not fix this.
Very funny. Just a lot of Asian people winning tonight. Yeah. Very interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah, a lot of Asian people, but not Marcus Wade. Marcus Wade did not win. So. Okay, everyone, that is it for another episode of Felix Comic Art Podcast Live. Always a lot of fun.
Thank you guys for listening, and I hope we. Next time I'll be angrier. I'm sorry that it wasn't as angry. Yeah, hopefully I'll do really terrible next time, and I'll come on and complain. But yeah, sorry.
That's it. There will be a next time because, like I said, you're only not even quite halfway, so there'll be probably at least 2 more times. Okay, so that's it. Good night, everyone. Thanks for coming, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, everyone.